There comes a moment in every person's life when everything familiar starts to fade. Not because God wants to hurt you, but because He's calling you higher. When the people who once promised to stay suddenly drift away, when the plans you worked so hard for fall apart, when the voices that used to cheer for you go quiet, that's when you finally meet God in a way you never have before. See, it's easy to talk about faith when life feels stable, but real faith, the kind that can't be shaken, is often born when everything else has been stripped away. As long as you have options, you'll lean on them. As long as you have backup plans, you'll trust in yourself. But when every door closes, when the noise fades, that's when you stand face to face with the truth. If God is all you have, then God is all you need. In that sacred quiet when there's no one left to impress, and no strength left to fake it, something changes. Isolation turns into a classroom, and in that classroom, God teaches you what true strength looks like. You begin to see that what felt like rejection was actually protection, what looked like loss was actually preparation, and what seemed like the end was actually the start of transformation. Because when God removes what you thought you needed, He's not destroying you, He's rebuilding you. Job knew this. In one moment, he lost his fortune, his family, his health. Yet even in ashes, he said, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job 1:21. And David, before wearing the crown, hid in caves. No palace, no soldiers, just him and God. But he wrote, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." Psalm 27:10. Those caves weren't punishment, they were preparation, because God often hides His greatest warriors in silence, before revealing them to the world. Moses learned this in the wilderness. He had no strategy, no strength left, yet heaven rained down manna and then water came from a rock. Exodus 16:17. A reminder that provision doesn't come from people, it comes from God. Paul said it best. "My God will supply all your needs according to His riches in glory." Philippians 4:19. When a person has nothing but God, that's when miracles start to happen. Because dependence opens the door for divine power to move. Even Jesus modeled this. Before the miracles, before the cross, He often withdrew to lonely places to pray. Luke 5:16. Those weren't wasted moments, they were sacred ones. And Psalm 34:18 reminds us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." So when you feel alone, don't mistake it for abandonment. That stillness may be the place where God draws closest. It's where your worship becomes real, and your heart finally has space for Him to fill. Joseph learned this too. Betrayed, forgotten, imprisoned, yet he declared, "What you meant for harm, God intended for good." Genesis 50:20. Every prison cell was just a stepping stone to His purpose. James 1:2-4 reminds us to consider it pure joy when you face trials, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. The fire you're in isn't meant to burn you, it's meant to purify you. Because when you have no one left to carry you, God teaches you how to stand in His strength. And when you finally walk out of that fire, you're not weaker, you're refined. Not broken, but built for the calling ahead. Paul wrote from a prison cell, "I consider everything a loss compared to the worth of knowing Christ." Philippians 3:8. Even in chains, he had joy because he still had Christ. And Psalm 73:26 declares, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." Everything else fades, but God remains. He's not your last resort, He's your first source. When the applause stops, when people fade, when the world goes quiet, heaven doesn't call that rock bottom, heaven calls it rebirth. That's where faith stops being an idea and becomes reality. Because the same God who met Job in ashes, hid David in caves, who stood beside Joseph in prison, and strengthened Paul in chains, that same God stands beside you right now. If it feels like everything's falling apart, maybe it's not the end, maybe it's the beginning. God isn't finished with you. He's removing the temporary so he can build something eternal. So don't run from the silence, embrace it. Because the silence is where he speaks. The stillness is where he heals. And the loneliness, that's where he makes you whole. If you still have God, you still have everything. If this message spoke to you, type "God is enough" in the comments. Share this with someone who feels like they've lost everything. And remind them that they haven't lost God.